Hello, 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 and welcome to Kingdom Inspired Kids podcast where parents talk. Today, I want to talk about how we equip families to thrive with faith, wisdom, and practical tools for raising children with ADD and ADHD. I am your host and founder, Calvette Boyd, and today we're diving into a critical part of your child's educational journey school meetings for students with ADD and ADHD. We call those ARD meetings. So whether it's an IEP, a 504, or general support meeting, being prepared can make the difference. Let's talk about what you need to bring, what questions you need to ask, and how to help your child walk out of that room feeling supported and understood. The first thing you want to do is prepare for the meeting. Usually, there is a letter sent via mail, and that letter requires a response. I think it's 14 days before, something like that. But they send you a letter in the mail, and they want your signature, and they want you to say, yes, I will attend the meeting. Some meetings are virtual, and some meetings are you can attend those in person. I've always tried to make sure that I'm actually at the meeting, unless it was during the time when COVID was going on and we were social distancing and things like that. But I always try to make sure that I sign that paper, or I reply to the email that asked me, hey, we're going to have an art meeting at 10 a.m. on Monday, June, the whatever day it is, or August, the whatever day it is. Yes, I will attend in person. So you want to be prepared for that meeting after you have already responded. The next thing you want to do is gather the paperwork. So any diagnosis documentation from your doctors, any of your doctors, your psychologist, your psychiatrist, your occupational therapist, your therapist, any of those diagnosis documentation, you want to gather those. Any notes that you've received from your teachers, anything you've gotten from the school counselor, any past report cards, or any kind of progress updates. So you want to make sure that you have all of that. The next step would be write down any concerns you have ahead of time. Anything, whether it is your student is excelling in academics or your student is struggling in academics, any behavioral issues or opportunities, or even progress that your student is having, or any social behaviors, any social skills, anything like that. So you want to make sure that you, first of all, respond to the request for the meeting, gather any kind of paperwork you have, write down any concerns you have ahead of time, whether they be social, academic, or behavioral. And then you want to bring your child's perspective. What struggles or successes do they see? Do they know that they even have an IEP or a 504 plan or a behavior intervention plan? Does that student know that? And do they know what accommodations they get? So bring your child's perspective. I can tell you that my child asked me, hey, when you talk to the teacher, can you ask the teacher, why is it that I am sitting in the back of the room when there's all of these distractions in the middle of the room and in the front of the room? And my plan says that my paperwork says that I'm supposed to be at the front of the classroom. So make sure that you ask your child, what is going on? How do they feel? Do they feel successful? Do they see any challenges or opportunities that they might want to address, so that you have their perspective going into the meeting? The next step would be set goals. What do you want to accomplish by the end of the meeting? What is this whole meeting for? What does your child want to gain from this meeting? As a parent or guardian, grandparent, what do you want to see at the end of this meeting? So the next step would be any key questions. So make sure you're following me here. Make sure you're writing these things down. Any key questions the parent should ask. What accommodations are available for my child? Does that mean that my child gets read to? Or does that mean that my child gets more time when they're testing? Does that mean that my child is in a separate testing area? So see what accommodations that school has available for your child. The next thing you want to do, how will the progress be measured and reported back to you as a parent? So will there be parent teacher check-ins? Will you guys, when there's parent teacher conference time or every 6 weeks or 9 weeks or grading period, will you know like halfway in how your student is doing? Or is it a school that only contacts you if there's something negative instead of positive about your child? So you want to make sure that you know, you guys agree on how this progress will be measured and how you will receive that information. Make sure that you get the teachers' email addresses so that you can respond back and forth with those teachers, so that not only is the school responsible for measuring that success and reporting it back to you, but you as a parent, you're also checking in to see how your child is doing. The next step would be, who is responsible for implementing this support plan? Is it the teacher? Is there a support staff that is with your student? Who is it? Does your child get called out of class for some kind of counseling services, or get called out so that they can have extra support when it comes to their math or their reading or whatever it may be? You want to make sure that you know who is responsible for implementing the support plan. One of the other questions I like to ask is, who has read my student's support plan? Every single teacher should have already read your student's support plan before school even starts, so that they know what accommodations your child gets. And if those are not being done, if you're not getting that information, if your student is not getting the support or the accommodations that are in that actual plan, it is a legal binding document, and so the schools can be held accountable for that. So you want to make sure that you know that your child's teachers have read that plan, and that, because they're going to be responsible for helping support that plan. The next thing that you should ask is, what strategies are being used in the classroom to help with focus and organization? Because remember, our children, ADD, ADHD, are sometimes not focused as much as they should be, or they get off task really easy. They get distracted really easy. So you want to make sure that you're asking, what strategies, how are we redirecting those students so that they can stay on task? How are we making sure that they are organized in their day-to-day work, their day-to-day activities? The next question I would ask is, how can we, as a family at home, partner with you, the staff, the staff, the teachers, the counselors, the administration, to reinforce what is being done at school? We want to make sure that at home and in the classroom, we're on the same page. Our children are at school 6-8 hours a day, so we want to make sure that we are all on the same page. We're all redirecting the same way. We're all supporting the same way. This is going to make it easier for your child to even be, as far as their self-esteem and what they're doing, just making sure that everyone is being consistent, because you don't want it to be yelling and screaming at home because they're not focused. And then when they get to school, that teacher is really that teacher is really patient with them. So we want to be on the same page when it comes to that. How can we at home support and reinforce what is being done at school to help your student? All right. So once you've done all of that, the next question for me would be, what should my student gain? Like, what should my child gain from this meeting? Well, one thing should be a clear understanding of their supports, whether that is the extra time, the quiet space, they are being tested in a different area, they are being read to when they're taking a test, whatever that may be, the student, your child, needs to know exactly what their support looks like before they leave out of the meeting. They also need to have after this meeting, they want to be confident in speaking up and saying, hey, this is working for me or this is not working for me, so that if we need to go back and have another ARD meeting and change some things so that it will help your child or the student to be more successful, then that's what we may need to do. But we want to make sure that your child is confident enough to speak up and say, hey, I think it would help me if I had a little more time to do this, or maybe it would help me stay on task if I'm at the front of the room. I can stay more focused than when I'm in the back of the room or the middle of the room. Or maybe I am really distracted and so I'm looking around the room because there's too much going on. So maybe I need to be in another classroom. So things like that. So we want to make sure that they're confident in speaking up. We also want to make sure that they are encouraged that this meeting is to work for them, not against them. I can tell you as a parent, I have felt at times that there were things, and this is when I wasn't educated. I didn't know about ARD meetings. I really didn't understand what, a 504 was, or IEP or BIP. I didn't know what those things were. And so I didn't really understand what I needed to do or what the questions that I needed to ask as a parent. So this has come from experience along the way. So you want to make sure that whatever you do in that meeting, it is to support the student and it's not to work against them. The next question you want to ask is, you want the parent, when you leave that meeting, you as a parent or guardian, grandparent, you want to be encouraged. So you want to remind the staff, the administration, the teachers, everyone that's in that meeting, the counselors, because I think there's like 2 or 3 teachers. Sometimes there's all the teachers, but there's teachers, there's the principal, there's the counselor, and there's the whole staff, right? You've got a team of people that are in this meeting. You want to remind them that this meeting is to help your student, to help your child. And so you will be your child's biggest advocate. Parents, let me say this. If you have children that are outspoken, because sometimes these children are outspoken, if you have children that are outspoken, just make sure that if it's something that's really not going the way it needs to go, just make sure that your child comes to you and that you as an adult are addressing those, because sometimes we have kids that step out of their place and they try to be adults and advocate for themselves. There's nothing wrong with them speaking up and being confident enough to speak up and say, hey, I think this would help me. I don't think this is helping me as much. I think if we did something a little bit different, it would help me. But we don't want the kids to kind of attack the teachers like, hey, you're not doing what my IEP says or my 504 plan says. You encourage your student, your child, to come to you as a parent, guardian, grandparent, as the adult, so that you can continue to be your child's biggest advocate. There's nothing wrong with them advocating for themselves, but just make sure that you are your child's biggest advocate until they're an adult and they can advocate for themselves. These meetings are not about, these ARD meetings are not about perfection. There is never going to be anything perfect when it comes to this earth, because we're not perfect people. But we do want to see progress when it comes to these meetings. We don't want to see our student, our child regress, because if you start seeing those things, parents, you need to call an ARD meeting, and you can do that. You can absolutely call an ARD meeting. 10 years ago, I didn't know that. So that's something that I had to learn along the way. The other thing is, you want to make sure that you build a strong relationship with the school team. whether that means you join PTO, you join PTA, you volunteer at the school, you make sure that your teachers, your child's teachers are taken care of, whether it's, taking them a goodie bag or like taking them some supplies or something that the students might need. You want to make sure that there is a great relationship between you and the staff, because that makes it easier when it comes to communication. And it also lets your child know that, or your student know, your baby know that, hey, we're on the same page. We're working together to support each other because we are here for you. And I am your biggest advocate, but I want to make sure that I have that relationship with the staff, because that's going to be key. That is a key thing that you want to make sure that you're doing. Listen, I know I gave you guys a lot of information today. I gave you a lot of information. We talked about preparing for the meeting, questions that you should ask for the meeting, what the student should gain from the meeting, as well as the encouragement for parents, because we want to make sure that we are, again, our child's biggest advocate, but that we are also partnering and building those relationships with the school and the staff. It may even mean you being a substitute teacher or joining, dads joining whatever program they have for dads, like mentorship or whatever. We want to make sure that we're doing that. So I gave you guys a lot of information today, and I hope this information helps. Of course, you guys know, if you need to reach me, you can contact me on any social media platform at kik.llc. You can also you can also call me. I want to say thank you for joining me on today's episode of Kingdom Inspired Kids podcast, where parents talk. And remember, these meetings are opportunities to build a team around your child, to get them the support that they need to grow, learn, develop, and then have that confidence that they're going to need in the real world once they're out of school. So don't be afraid, parents, guardians, grandparents. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and then make sure your child leaves with the tools they need to thrive and grow. If you found this episode helpful in any way, please share it with another parent who's navigating the same journey, because you parents, you're not alone in this. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and connect with me on Facebook, YouTube, all social media platforms at Kingdom Inspired Kids. On YouTube, KIGDOM INSPIREDKIDZ-P6E. So Kingdom Inspired Kids P6E on YouTube for more resources and encouragement. Guys, please, please, please like, comment, subscribe, send it to your friends that are navigating this same journey, because we as parents are not in this thing alone. Until next time, keep inspiring your kids, keep shining, keep growing. Remember that God loves you. I love you guys too. And I hope to see you soon. Have a great and amazing rest of your day today.